a turning point for me, I was at an event one time with you kids, and I was in my 50s. And he came to me, he goes, yeah, when I was younger in my teenage years, I was a jerk.
Yeah.
I was mean to people. I was just a jerk.
Yeah.
But then I changed.
Yeah.
But this guy came talk to me like I was still 16. I was still,
right.
But I changed. I talked to the person politely. We had a very good conversation, but that was his view. And I left there and I told your mom, you can't make everybody happy. I'm not going to try anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the changed person. They still look back the way it was back then, which wasn't good. And I don't blame them, but you change.
Yeah. I remember there was a guy that I saw at Jackson Sports Bar one time, like as an adult. And I remember back in like 4th grade, I made fun of him. Like I was a jerk, like that kind of thing. And I remember, one time the school calling home or whatever called you was like, hey, Josh and these other kids are picking on this one guy, and you were pissed, which I get. But I remember seeing this guy at a bar later on in life, and he probably just still remembered 4th grade me. Yeah. And I walked up to him and I was like, hey man, what's up? I don't know if you remember me, I'm Josh. And he's like, yeah. And I just apologized. And I was like, I'm really sorry for how I treated you. I feel really guilty about it, but I was a dumb kid and I was a jerk, man. I'm sorry, that kind of thing. And he looked like shocked. Like, I don't think he was expecting me to say that. Yeah. And we shook hands and it was great. And it's like, he may never change his opinion of me and that's okay. Yeah. But I feel like at least I was able to kind of do my end of it. Yeah. And maybe you felt the same way with that guy. We're like, hey, like, and that was one of the things that you taught us very young, was that one of the things that we have the capability of as human beings versus, ducks and other creatures and stuff is like, we can change. Like all the other animals in the animal kingdom can't change at all, but we're blessed with the ability to analyze our behaviors and be like, this is not the way forward. Who you are is not baked in. You can go back and it's really hard. It's uncomfortable because you have to push your ego aside, but you can change. And I always remembered that. And I think watching you do it was more important than you saying it. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. The approach you took was the right approach with that guy.
Right.
Because like you said, he's going to remember you, the 10-year-old, 12-year-old you.
Yeah.
Now the other thing you got to, I think that changed for me is I'm just going to be who I am because of the positions I have. I used to talk at conferences, before 500 people, talk about water. But when I would first get up there, I would tell them, look, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm not going to use the fancy words.
Yeah.
My sentences aren't going to flow. I'm just going to talk to you. And it may sound like, hey, the vocabulary of this guy, but you guys know what I'm talking about and my intent. I'm not embarrassed of that. When I was at Cooley, when I was first learning, there were certain pieces of equipment that we would have to identify.
Right.
And I remember one time I'm talking to the power people, and there's this, I'm not going to get into details, but this big piece of equipment is called the transformer.
Right.
And then there's this little piece of equipment about this big that's called a transducer.
Right.
Well, I'm talking to all the power people, and I go, yeah, we got to figure out how to fix that transducer. Mm-hmm. And they all started giggling and laughing, and it was a transformer. It was a huge.
Yeah. Right.
And they go, Dave, the difference? I go, yeah, let me just tell you how this is going to work. I go, you guys, I have you here because you guys are the smartest ones in the plant.
Right.
The problem you guys have is at the end of the day, I'm going to make the final decision.
Right.
That's my job.
Yeah.
I'm going to label things wrong sometimes, but you guys know what I mean, so you can correct me. Because if I don't know, I'm going to make the wrong. And they were laughing. They go, we got your back, Dave.
Oh, good.
We do that.
Yeah.
But those are the kinds of things where don't be embarrassed of who you are. I had a person, they would talking sometimes, I'd be in a conference.
Yeah.
And they'd be giving me a presentation, they'd use words, and I would stop and say, okay, I'm sorry.
It's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't even know what that word means. I was comfortable saying that. And other people were like, yeah, we don't either. So
no, I think it actually is really helpful sometimes to be like, dude, explain it to me like I'm 5, because I just don't get it,
Yeah.
And especially when you're supposed to collaborate with people that think differently than you. It's really cool.